All right, so I dug up some information for this motor. Let's see here. This is a parts list. Valve clearance. So intake should be 3 thou to 5 thou. Exhaust should be 5 thou to 7 thou. And the spark plug gap is on here as well. I may pull the spark plug and clean that up as well. That could also be some of the running issues. This might be due for a new spark plug, or at least cleaning that one. And then this is out of a separate service manual, just general instructions for adjusting the valve clearance. So this motor, and I guess this is fairly common for the Briggs & Stratton motors, you gotta go 6 millimeter down from top dead center. So let's see, yeah, they're suggesting screwdriver, small rod as an indicator, to see if I can actually get an indicator in there. Because you've basically got to come to top dead center and then go 6 millimeters past. It says down, I'm assuming that means past top dead center, rotating in the normal run direction. So let's get this off and see what we're working with. So unfortunately what you're seeing here is just a still image of my gloved hand moving away from the camera, because I thought I was stopping the video here at the end after adjusting the valves, and instead took a picture, because apparently when I started the video, instead I just switched the phone to camera mode. So I do not have the footage of the valve adjustment. It was not particularly exciting. It was almost within spec, and then I measured the compression again afterwards, and it was within I think 1 to 2 psi of where it started out as. So I don't think the valves being out of adjustment made any difference here. I'll link this below if you're looking for one of these. This is the OTC brand one. This goes in and out of stock at Amazon. For the money, I think it's a nice gauge. So if you read the reviews on these things, and it doesn't matter which one you look at, there's always somebody saying it's not accurate, it's crap. I will generally look at the reviews kind of in general, but then also just kind of look at the reviews for that brand overall. Is it a Chinese importer that does everything from lawn chairs to auto parts to tools, you know, or is it, you know, a company that actually focuses on engineering and tools? It's not to say you can't find a deal sometimes with the Chinese importers that do everything. For low-end tools, I think you can kind of do all right. But for something like a compression tester, you know, buy it from a company that seems to actually focus on tools. All right, let's pull this outside and see how she runs. All right, I went ahead and pushed it outside. It's a bit of a tight squeeze there between my truck and this car. So let's see, brake on. Oh, you know what? Forgot. There we go. Neutral, brake on. I'm not going to choke it. We'll leave the throttle all the way down. That might be an improvement. the steering looks totally dry there. I'm going to get some grease and grease that up while we're waiting for this to warm up. Do now. Uphill here in high gear. Wow, she's running really good. So it's definitely running a lot better than it was. It still seems to surge once in a while. I think this motor is fairly worn and it might still be starving for fuel a little bit, but it's definitely running and driving. It's a usable machine. In fact, I'm not going to try cutting the grass in high, but let's try cutting the grass in the low speed. This have 15.5 horsepower, and this machine I would think should have plenty of power to cut in low speed without struggling. So let's see what it'll do. Forgot to set the brake. Actually cuts pretty nice. Well, I think all that's left to do is I still need to get a filter on there, and we got to get the hood, we got to get the hinges straightened out on the hood, and get the hood put back on, but it's just about done. So just as I was ready to declare victory, we seem to have actually developed a new problem. Deck doesn't engage anymore. It was engaging. not getting that clank like we did on the pulley before, so I don't think it's the pulley. Well, back into the shop. Oh, that looks loose. Oh, well, there's the problem. Yeah. I don't know if that might be out of adjustment. Shouldn't be able to slip off like that, obviously. Let's get that back on. All right, so I put it back on there. It seems really loose though. The way this engages though, I think it's supposed to stay pretty loose. The tensioner pulley doesn't seem to do anything until you actually engage the deck. I wonder if maybe the issue is this guard here. Let's put the light down. I think this guard here maybe is supposed to be a little bit closer to the pulley. It's pretty far. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want it to touch, but I mean, I could probably fit my thumb up there, and I could easily fit my index finger down here. Let's see if maybe we could just bend that over a bit. See if we can't persuade this to get a little closer to the pulley. That did it. Still nowhere near touching, but that belt can't work itself off anymore. I think that, I bet you when you disengage the deck, the belt probably slaps out this way, and it needs to hit against that and not have enough gap to get out of there. I'm gonna call that solved, but I guess only time's gonna tell. Comment below if you know if these machines have any grease points on the spindles. I'm probably not going to be mowing with this. My two reasons for keeping this would be just give my kids something to ride around, something else to pull a cart in the yard with, and to have a backup for my zero turn. So I would be mowing with it in that instance. I'm going to keep the deck on, but I don't see any grease points up top. I don't really feel like dropping the deck. There might be grease points underneath, but comment below if you know if there's any grease points on the spindles for these, or if there's anything else I should lubricate. I did grease up the steering good, and I'll probably just go around with silicone spray and hit anything that looks like it's a pivot point or moves on this machine before I put it away. It's gonna be stored inside, so I'm not super worried about it. Probably the thing I'm most pleased with, well, it's not true. Obviously I'm pleased it's running, but I love the fact that we don't appear to have oil coming out of anywhere. I hate stuff leaving a big puddle of oil on my floor every time I leave it. And this thing is bone dry everywhere. All right, let's turn our attention to the hood. These are bent and missing bolts. It looks like it started to pull back the sheet metal as well. I squeezed it back just with my fingers. Let's get this on the bench and see if we can get another set of bolts in here. And to find out if these headlights work. All right, got this up on the bench. I bent this back to where I believe it belongs. I guess that sheet metal needs to bend back a little bit too. A wrench. Trying to slip it over there and then kind of bend it back down in the direction that it should be. A little bit at a time, because this is mounting to, it's mounting in this sandwich here, it's probably hard to see, is this plastic part of the hood, the sheet metal of the sides and the top, and then the metal of the bracket. Get the grip on that side. Find something that fits in there. whole mess of these. I think this is off of those really cheap sheet metal shelving units. Always save stuff like this. I disassembled one of those at some point. Yeah, see, that's going to be, I think that's going to be a perfect fit on here. Just need a washer. You know what? I think, just judging how that looks, I think there was a self-tapping, like a self-tapping screw in there that just went into the plastic. Trying to think of a beefier way that we could do it. It's not just going to break that plastic. So you see the hole is right up against, actually the hole is partway through this here, and it's plastic. So we can't really fit anything on the other side without it just pushing on that bracket, which is going to break it, or that gusset, I should say. Let's just put a big beefy zip tie on it and cinch it down. In fact, I wonder if this is remnants of somebody doing the same thing on the other side, maybe? No, because that gusset's still there. These are pretty heavy duty zip ties. I don't remember what these were rated at, maybe like 60 pounds or something. Maybe even more. They're not the chintzy little ones. Come on. Let's get something to cinch these down. That's pretty tight. Waiting for another click. I'm already there. Got another click out of it. It looks like this might have been mounted. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think it was mounted to up here as well. I think that's what those other zip ties were. You get the flush cut snips. When you're working with zip ties, trim them with one of these. This cuts it flush so you don't have that sharp part sticking out. So now when you're working on this and you're rubbing on that, instead of taking a nice chunk out of your hand, it's just nice and smooth. All right, it's way better. I wonder if these headlights work. Let's get this back on. Figure this out without breaking it. Can't really see. Oh, is that easy? All right. Expecting that to be a fight. Put our lights back in. Just closing it real gentle because I'm not 100% certain. And that hinge, we ended up in the right spot. Yep, I think so. Our fuel line is just, actually it's not quite touching, so that's good. And I think we had some loose wires on the other side. And this thing got a repower, I'm guessing. Never did determine what that black wire was. I think that is a ground. Let's just zip tie this stuff up tight onto the loom here so it's not flopping all around. Maybe we'll get these up here so it's not in the way of the next oil change. And maybe bring these back down here. When I was looking through the parts list for this machine, it lists an alternator, so I think this does actually have an alternator set up on it for these lights. Which probably means the lights only work if it's running. Assuming the wiring has not been changed. One of the many times it's been worked on. Yeah, I'm liking that. Put one more on here for good measure. Brake is on. Oh boy, can it be any dimmer? Yep, they do work. I'm sure that's it's probably UV faded. But it's nice to see that they work. Well guys, that wraps everything up. Got everything back and running on this tractor. Motor isn't super strong. Like I said, I think it's got quite a few hours on it, but it's got plenty of juice to run around the yard and even mow. I did try mowing with it in high gear. It actually mowed just fine, so I think it's got plenty of power. Thanks for hanging around with me in the shop while I got this thing going. I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. It's like I like working on stuff, figuring it out. You know, kind of learning as I go, and it's super nice to see it out running. My daughter loves this thing. I can hardly get her off of it. This is kind of the first opportunity she's had to operate something with a motor in it and a steering wheel. So this is I think day 2 of just sitting here in the backyard with her as she goes forward and backwards and practices her K-turns and driving around the trees. She is just having a blast. I hope that as she gets older, she enjoys some of this stuff as well. She'll hang out in the shop with me for a bit and then eventually kind of get a little bit bored and start trying to use the tools for things that they weren't designed for. But hey, that's what kids do, right? So again, thanks for hanging around. If you enjoyed this, you know, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and come back for more. Take care, guys. Break time?